This video is powered by USA Gundam. Visit USAGundamstore.com and enter the code JOEY10 to receive 10% off your next purchase. Alright, so challenge completed. As you can see, here is the final product of me taking the SMS paints that were sent to me and putting them on a kit. The inspiration behind this initially is whenever I did the first video and I unboxed them and I looked at the colors, I like immediately thought GM3. And I know some of you guys are going to be like, oh no, Federation colors on a Xeon mobile suit. But you know, hey, look, that's what I thought whenever I saw them for the first time. And you know what? I'm really glad I went that way, because this looks really awesome. The colors pair really well together. You know, it's almost Federation looking, but then again, it could also not be. You know, with the shields being red and that cream color, yeah, I can definitely see the Federation side of that. But I love it. I love the way that it came out, and I think, you know, this was a good challenge for me, because the all flats thing, every paint that he sent was flat, and I had 2 things of flat coat. I ended up only using I ended up using 1 thing of flat, or 1 bottle of flat, and then like partial of the other one. But the rest of the paints, I really didn't use a whole lot. Like even the blue, I don't know if you can see this or not, but like even the blue, oh lord, I don't know where it's at. It's hard to see, but it's only like right here. So I mean, and the gray is like the same way. I used blue and gray the majority of the kit, and I still have a lot of paint left, which is really saying something about the coverage of SMS paints. You know, the pigmentation and everything is excellent. I hardly used anything of the red or the cream or the white. So I mean, I have a lot of paint left, and I've painted an entire kit. Talking about the color scheme more, as I said before, the inspiration at first was the GM3, and a little insight on my brain. In the beginning, I actually was going to do the entire head white. Like, I was literally going to kind of copy. I'm really glad I didn't, don't get me wrong. But, like, I was going to kind of copy the GM3 whole scheme and do, like, a 2-tone on the white and the cream, instead of how I did, say, like, the whole arms, the legs, and the head. So, like, I did the torso first, and I looked at that, and as I was doing the head, I was like, you know, just a white face would look really, really cool with this. So I'm glad I kind of pieced it. So like I started with the torso and I worked outwards, and that's what made me kind of be able to see the next steps as I was doing steps, if that makes sense. I'm really happy that I ended up with the colors I did, and that I got to experience, you know, a lot of these colors for the first time, especially the Aggressor Blue. Now, one thing about the Aggressor Blue is all of these colors were flat, but the Aggressor Blue is like a different flat. It is so flat that I don't want to use the word like chalky, but it comes out so flat that, you know, one of the biggest challenges I had in this whole set was doing the panel lines or the panel lining accent and the decals, because with no gloss, of course, that's a little harder, and especially on the Aggressor Blue, and I kind of use it to my advantage, but it would kind of seep into the paint, so it was a lot harder to actually clean off. But the fact that it was harder to clean off and I had to kind of, like, I guess, scrub more, it kind of gave a really cool effect to the paint. So it kind of worked hand in hand, to be honest with you. And, you know, that was something that I experienced in this build that I had never experienced before, was having to detail up pieces that were all flat. Learn how to put decals on without them silvering, without gloss, and stuff like that. So, you know, challenge accepted, challenge completed. I'm happy with it. I hope you guys are happy with it. And next we'll take a look at the accessories and stuff like that. One more thing before we actually move on to the accessories and all that good stuff is I also wanted to touch on why I went with the shaded approach with this build. And the reason being is I was only given a finite amount of paints to use. So I was only able to use, you know, 2 shades of white and then 3 other colors. So 5 colors to paint an entire kit, weapons, accessories, everything like that. You know, in my mind, I thought that if I just did everything super, super clean, no shading, nothing like that, it would look good, but it wouldn't look interesting, or it wouldn't have character and stuff like that. So my thinking, my brain, is, you know, I put the shading in and the post shading, highlighting, and stuff like that in there to just give it that little extra. So when you look at this, you kind of lose the fact in your mind that it's only 5 different colors throughout the entire kit, because it kind of looks like more. When you get to an edge of the blue part and you see that little bit of like grayish black or something like that, it just makes it look like I used more colors than I did. All right, so now accessories. So starting out, we'll take a look at the beam hawks, I think they're called, the basically the little axes, and they came out pretty well. They're pretty simple. They're basically just highlighted German gray, but I mean, it did the job. It did the effect that I wanted it to do. I did do a little seam line removal on the top and bottom of this piece here. Basically seam line removal around the whole thing, actually, and it came out really well. I mean, like I said, it's just 2 pieces half together and a little beam effects on there. And moving up in size, here we have the gun, all done the same way. It's basically all just highlighted gray, but I think it goes well with the aesthetic of the rest of the kit. I didn't want to go super flashy with basically anything on the kit, so that's why I didn't put any decals on it. I let the paint kind of do the work on this kit, make it look nice and stuff like that. So, and that's what this build is about, is the paint. So I wanted to not take away from the paint with a lot of decals and stuff like that. Of course, this thing still moves up and down. This still slides to the side. You can see a little detail under there. And I actually did hand paint the, if you can see it, the insignia red inside there, but of course with no gloss. I flat coated the whole thing, so it's a flat lens, but I still think it looks better than just having gray in there, so I like it. It's a little dab of color on a basically all gray piece, but even though it's all gray, the shaded effect makes it look really cool, I think. And onto the biggest accessory, not my favorite accessory, but the biggest. The shading really pops out on this one particular, or these pieces particular. I really like how it came out. I used those 2 decals back there. Of course, did the shading all over the backpack itself. And I used the 2 decals on the side, basically labeling what these things are. My favorite part of what I did here is the shading on the barrels. I really like that, how it goes from dark to light, dark to light. It's kind of like a burnt effect is kind of what I was going for, but I think they came out well. I like it. And of course we have the little red detail in there. And now for my favorite accessory, which is this giant beam axe. I love this thing. This thing is so cool, but one thing I had to do was get rid of the white pieces. The blade was white, which I did not understand. And I mean, those 2 pieces being white, I could kind of understand, but the blade definitely not. So, I did the shaded gray, of course, on the bottom. Put some decals down here, and my probably one and only decal I like in this whole kit is this one here, just because I think it's kind of neat. This is a little decal of the whole thing. And of course, this thing still moves and stuff like that. You can put it in and out, all that good stuff. The handle itself is a shaded red, so of course black and then red over top. And I think it came out really nice. Here's the other sides, same basically, but the shading really does help with this, especially up here. Just gives it a little bit of depth, and I do like it. So that's pretty much going to do it for the accessories, and I'm going to get the accessories put on him, get him back on the 360, and we will do final thoughts. And as you can see, you actually can get this kit to stand with that backpack. It's just a little bit of doing to do. You just have to get them angled just right. If you angle them too far back, of course, it's going to make them a little too back heavy. This is the full view. This is kind of like the full effect of the kit. Everything painted, SMS paints, the paints that were sent. I used no gloss throughout this entire situation, which was the challenge for me. He knew that, I had done a lot of gloss kits in the past. I had just started dabbling with the flat stuff. So he chose wisely and made it a challenge for me. And, I'm happy he did. I'm always up for a challenge. I like to challenge myself to grow my skills. 100% transparency here, I do think I could have done a better job on this kit if I was able to use basically anything I wanted. But the fact that it was a challenge build, I wanted to stick to that challenge, so I didn't use any gloss, like say the decals, for instance, and stuff like that, the panel lining and stuff like that. I think I could have gotten that maybe just a little bit better if I used gloss, but working with what I had, doing the challenge, I'm happy with the way that it came out. Like I said before, it's going to look great on my shelf. I think it would really look great regardless. I do like the way that it came out. I like the shaded effect. I like the coverage of the paint. Like I said, I have a ton of paint left, so that's really, really nice. And I was able to paint an entire master grade, kind of a big master grade. There's a lot of pieces, especially with the backpack and stuff like that. So, final thoughts is this was a really fun experience. I would totally do it again. Like I said, the flats was definitely a challenge. All right, guys, that is going to wrap up this challenge build series. It was super fun to do. I hope it was super fun to watch. And I want to extend a huge, huge thank you to Scott Taylor with SMS Paints for making this all possible. I will put a link in the description below to where you guys can go get your own SMS paints. And also, don't forget that this is a build-off between Geo Builds, Mike's Builds, and I. So I will also be putting a link in the description below to where you guys can go check out their works. But that's going to do it. So, as always, a like and subscribe would be appreciated if you enjoyed this, and I will see you in the next one.